Stewart, in three, two, one, you are live.
Hello, 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 Santa Barbara. It's your chantress of everything valuable and beautiful, Elizabeth Stewart. And I am so thrilled because I've always dreamed of opening an establishment as we are going to talk about today. And I cold called Jenna Berg because I don't know if I saw her name in the paper, but I read something about the fact that she and her husband, Brian Mann, who's a musician, were investing in a property, opening up a really unique restaurant, bar, club, etc., for musicians. And I know, I'm from the Chicago area originally. We used to have a very famous restaurant where it was two grands that were butted up against one another. And, you could sit there, have dinner, and the performers would play. And this really rang a bell with me because Richard knows, our producer, Richard Dugan, is here. And Richard knows that for years I've complained about my mother, who was a professional musician, accompanist, and director, et cetera, choir person. And she passed away about a month ago. So, but she was highly annoying because she had perfect pitch.
No.
And it was so damn perfect that Brian, I'll have to joke with you, but as a kid, we didn't have the fancy digital alarm clocks. We had wind up alarm clocks. And when you wind up an alarm clock and the alarm goes off, there's a sound, and the sound goes down as the tension in the spring
Oh, right,
releases.
right, right.
And my mother used to grab her head and run around the house. She couldn't stand it because she had such a sensitive ear. Anyway, she always played dual pianos, and so she had a good friend. They played four hands all of their retired years together, and they played concerts all over the Chicago area. The two old ladies who
Mm.
got up there and just were fantastic. And so she performed all through the Chicago. So when I read about, yeah, guess what the name is? It's called the Grand, Richard. When I read about the Grand coming to us and opening up here in Santa Barbara, I thought, oh, I have to talk to this couple. So I want to introduce Jenna Berg and Brian Mann to the show. And we have so much to talk about. First of all, I want to introduce Jenna. I don't know how she got into this situation of being a restaurateur. I honestly don't know. I actually, she's all over our local scene because she's a real supporter of State Street. And she's been very vocal, very open about her opinions on what should happen to the positive, I should say. And she's been interested in the area around the Granada for a long, long time. She's a founder and CEO of Job Apps. And she actually is a engineer, PhD engineer. So this is why I'm thinking, Jenna, I'm the only person in my family that is not an engineer. Everybody else are engineers. And the engineers in my family would never jump on off a tree, or what did you say, off the dock, the way they're just more conservative people. They wouldn't think about what you're going to, what you have done. In other words, open a restaurant. So she is an engineer. She's got 30 years of system design and programming experience. She's worked for governments, private firms, et cetera. A real interesting person with technology. She holds a PhD from Duke University, and that's my son's alma mater. I love Duke, in computer science and electrical engineer with an emphasis in statistics. She was assistant professor of electrical engineering at North Carolina State, another great school. And what we should have done, Jenna, when I was putting my son through Duke and I was visiting Duke, and then I helped my daughter-in-law go through Chapel Hill, et cetera. So I was always in that area. And back in the early 2000s, we should have bought city property. We really should have bought property in Durham. We should have. I mean, it's grown so much. It's so beautiful now. Um, she established the director. She was a director of computer science at Meredith College in North Carolina, so a lot of North Carolina background. She's Kellogg Foundational National Leadership Fellow, And here again, a lot of not-for-profit work. Um, in Mexico, in California, etc. She founded Lights Up, which is a teen theater conservatory here, and she's been on the board of that program for a long time. She is passionate about the arts, but she knows how to do it. She's got that managerial skill. Now, Brian, on the other hand,
Yeah.
as
Brian,
I was
you've done
as on
nothing.
on the complete other hand, as I was interviewing Jenna, pre-interviewing Jenna, she was like, "Oh, you got to meet Brian," and she took me over to a poster of Brian as a little boy playing the accordion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I thought, okay, here's Dr. Berg with 30 plus years in technology, and she's married to a guy that was brought up playing an accordion. Somehow I thought, well, maybe that works. It clearly does.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is an accordionist, a composer, a keyboardist. And by the way, my mother started her musical career when she was 14 as a child prodigy in the Catskills, the hotels, all the people of one specific religious group flooded the Catskills from New York where she grew up, and then basically she played for years and years, performed on the accordion. Anyway, Brian was born in his dad's music school in California, so he's a native Californian. He has a degree in piano, or many degrees in piano and composition. Kenny Loggins, another a local hero, picked him to play keyboards and direct his band, and he's got gold and platinum albums with Kenny. He's worked with Barbra Streisand, Michael Jackson. He toured with Michael McDonald, another local hero, guitar master Larry Carlton, and he was also on the platinum album "Crazy from the Heat" with Van Halen, David Lee Roth. He's done all sorts of compositions for major television shows, national commercials. He's a keyboardist and accordionist, and he was Disney's go-to accordionist. That's just so amazing. It's a very hard thing to play. I have all my mom's old accordions. I can't do it. I mean, I can play the piano. She hammered that into my psyche early on, but I couldn't do the accordion for the life of me. He performed all the accordion parts and was videoed for animation modeling for the three nuns in Coco. Um, let's see. For Encanto, Brian was called in from the beginning to record accordion for Lin-Manuel Miranda's opening song, "The Family Madrigal." And then he was invited to join the International Accordionists in helping to create the soundtrack for Encanto, which we talked about. Now he lives here. Both of them live here. Jenna and Brian live in Santa Barbara. And he also performs. I saw him first at the El Encanto years ago because he looks so familiar. The picture when I was researching for this, it's like, I know that guy. I've seen him. I've actually put money in his job. I think I asked him once to play Danny Boy when I was half sauced. Anyway, he's played there and he's played all through many folk orchestras in Santa Barbara. And the list goes on and on and on. Just an accomplished musician. Now, between the two of them, they decided that it would be a really, really fun thing to do is open a restaurant where you could hear music, you could sit up late and listen, you could have a few drinks, you could be amongst people that appreciated wonderful food, and they were also appreciating wonderful jazz and all sorts of other music. What I understand from Brian is that he is an accomplished improv piano player as well. So what we can do is expect this wonderful restaurant to open up soon. It's just steps from the Granada, which is so, I mean, you could make a whole very long and wonderful evening of this, folks. Take a little bit of dinner, go to a show at the Granada, then come back and hear a little music. And it's just the classiest thing in the world. Jenna took me on a little tour behind the scenes. And first of all, I want to start with Jenna. I want her to talk about how this idea came to be. I mean, did you say to Brian, we really ought to open a restaurant? I mean, how did this happen? Please do tell.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
hear
an
it. Let's hear it.
excellent question. Yeah, Brian's dying to hear the answer to this question.
I
I,
bet.
I never expected to open a restaurant. So we'll start with that. But I always imagined that there would be a place for Brian to play where he could slide into a permanently hosted grand piano in a sound treated space and just play, and where people could come and listen, because it is such a treat to listen to Brian play jazz, improv. I've never heard anyone play quite like he does. So it's such a treat. And it's to share this with the community is a really special thing. And for him to be able to not haul hundreds of pounds of equipment and portable keyboards, and to be able to just have a home for him, a home for locals, a home for local musicians, a place that we can kind of feel like it's, I think, our living room is what you mentioned to me once. If it's going to feel maybe like a living room to people, a place they can just slide into and just indulge themselves, indulge their senses. So we went hunting for a space. We started thinking about this a couple of years ago and started looking for a space where we could do this, and not knowing really anything about the regulations of restaurants or liquor licenses or how you even rent a commercial space downtown. We just started looking around, and believe it or not, this was the fourth place that we came upon. And it was a journey. It was a journey of at least a year trying to find a place that would work. And it's not that easy to get a lease in Santa Barbara, as it turns out. Even though there may appear to be a lot of spaces, it's not always that easy. So we finally did find a space, and what we realized was the restaurant combination, jazz, piano, lounge, is the perfect combination for what we want to do. And so now that Brian is indulging his creativity in this music side of things, I realize I have an opportunity to indulge my creativity in the kitchen. So that's the next adventure.
Okay, so you actually cook.
Well, now that's a stretch, Elizabeth. Cooking, well, I'm a good taster, right? I'm a good taster. I have strong food preferences. I like really quality food, made with great ingredients, fresh olive oil. And I think as we mature, we try more foods, we become a little more particular about what we like. So our goal is to prepare that really fine food that you would expect from a kitchen, using the best ingredients, local ingredients, the finest olive oil, and to be able to just relax. And I think the word is to be indulgent, to sit in a beautiful space, to hear beautiful jazz, probably improvisational music, tasting amazing food, fine wine, and just, indulge yourself.
I think that's fantastic. It's a wonderful tradition. I don't know when. I was trying to think or do a little research on when the human being started to pair the culinary experience as a social happening with music. What was the beginning? What was the start date in human history of the tradition? I was thinking back to actually is there a passage in Gilgamesh? Anyway, so it goes back to Babylonian times where you'd have your usually it would be your upper class men, and they would be dining supine actually, and their servant boys would serve them their wines and their foods, and a harpist, a lyre player, would come and do strings for them. And then, of course, we go to the Greek era, and that was a tradition then. And of course, by the Roman times, it's an established thing. And then we start thinking about some of the medieval traditions of music and dining together. And we start to think about the first vestiges of chamber music and how that started, and that was designed to be more intimate in the late 17th, early 18th century. So, I mean, this is a fantastic tradition and then, what you get is I think I was telling Jenna, Brian, that, I was brought up in Chicago, and some of my mom's friends, here she's born in 1929, and some of my mom's friends that were older than her knew the old Chicago jazz scene. Even though they were white women, they would still go and hear, the old Chicago jazz scene, and it was clubs. And they were, they actually would, as young girls, probably in the 20s and the 30s, because they were a couple generations older than my mom, they would get into the jazz clubs in Chicago and just soak it up. And they were music and food and drink, all together, sometimes speakeasies. So this is a marvelous tradition. And so, okay, now we have to talk about something very important. What's your background, Brian? How did you get into this? I know that you've played all your life, but I mean, now you're going to perform. Is it going to be every night? What's your goal? What's your scene?
Probably not every night. And I'm definitely going to share the stage with some wonderful musicians. I've been lucky to find and be found by some great musicians over the last 30 years here. I've lived in Santa Barbara, 30 plus. And some young, some my age. Well, wait a minute. Is there anybody my age or older still playing?
Yeah, come on.
No, there are lots of musicians your age and older.
So I'll be playing, we're gonna experiment a little bit. My plan is to play here at least 2 or 3 nights initially, and play with different groups and singers. And we have a wonderful list of incredibly talented, gifted, expressive artists here, that like I said, I found and found me. And we'll see. I think because I love to improvise, just make things up. I think we'll improvise with the music too. It's like who's playing when. And my goal is to really connect with our audience in a deep way and a moving way. You talked about music and food together, and that's a great history to hear. And then I'm sure it goes back before that in time.
And Brian's mom is 100 years old. She grew up in Chicago, Elizabeth, and her sisters were on the stage.
Her aunts.
Oh, her aunts were on the stage, right?
They were dancers in vaudeville, and for I don't know, good repute or not, I don't know, but that they weren't thought of highly in those days.
That's amazing. So yes, you come from a theater background, you come from a Chicago background. Yes. So okay, so get me into the restaurant now. Let's say it's an evening. Are you performing by yourself? You mentioned that you know so many good musicians and have so many friends. What's this? What am I expecting? So I come in, let's say it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah. So I I expect to be playing with other people primarily. Like there's a couple different trios that I've been playing with. And a lot of times it's a piano and upright bass and a singer. One ensemble includes a singer who plays sax. And I don't know if I should start mentioning names of people, but they're wonderful and they're fairly well known in town. And then we have some young musicians that we want to encourage to come in here. They're very gifted. Also, some well known and some not yet. But mostly with groups, mostly with duos, trios, quartets, and I'm looking forward to that. I think the nice thing for me is to have a regular place to play, where we really have the best sound. I mean, where it's just a joy to play and hear what you're playing, and for the audience to hear it beautifully. And I think that.
So tell me how you did the sound, because you talked a number of times now about, and Jenna did too, about having a beautiful acoustic environment.
Well,
so
first thing is we we just had delivered a beautiful Steinway B Model B piano, which is, a lot generally considered the perfect piano, or they say. Or I was talking to Don Randy, who's a very famous LA musician. After what was that show? The Brian Wilson tribute we did, and he was on stage, and I was there with the folk orchestra, Adam Phillips Folk Orchestra, and I was talking to him in the parking lot, and I said, "So we're doing this club. What kind of piano would you?" He said, "Well, Yamahas are good," and they are. He said, "But if you could get a Steinway B, that'd be it." And so I did. So this beautiful piano is here now in this space, and I'm getting to know it. But it's something special. The space itself was acoustically treated previously, so it wasn't a big stretch to work on it. But Jenna's got these beautiful curtains up, and I've purchased a top of the line audio system, Meyer Sound, for those sound people that know that. And we're going to continue working on the sound treatment, so it's just a joy to hear. We're not going to be loud. We're going to be full and present and joyful. And back to the food and music thing. We're learning more and more every day about how music goes right inside us, and we have these receptors in our brain, and it affects our mood. It's something that bypasses every barrier and goes right in. And I think the right music can just add to the experience of dining and drinking, and spirits and beautiful wine selections. And I just want to bring it all together, and we want to keep it beautiful and affordable, and so that we can have a broad range of customers and friends that can come in on a regular basis and feel at home here.
I think that's marvelous. And the idea that it's so accessible to your friends and people that you like in the community, and that you've got such a network, experience matters. You've got this incredible network of musicians. I mean, just looking at you online and, reading a little bit, you just know everybody. And so, I mean, that is fantastic. I mean, part of what I'm envisioning is, the kind of, interest of, oh, did you see who just walked in, kind of thing, and so I mean, I think that's part of the club experience too.
Yeah,
um
right.
yeah, the personalities involved. Well, Richard's, I think, going to tell us we have to go to a quick break, so let's take a short break, and I want to talk a little bit about the kind of cuisine that you're aiming for. I saw online you had a couple of ideas, what direction you're going to go to as regards all locally sourced, and the top of the ingredients and all that. But I want to know, what could I'm picturing myself there at 8 p.m. on a Thursday night. What am I expecting to find on the menu? Love to hear that. And then I also want to, as long as we're talking about menus, I want to talk about the kind of music that I'm going to hear. I know it's jazz, but is that going to be what it is? Or, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The two menus, the food and the music. Let's talk about that. Hey, Richard, we're going to go to a quick break. Give me 2 minutes. I want to heat up my coffee. It's freezing here. Santa Barbara is really cold, Richard. It's probably just as cold as where you are today. So anyway, don't turn that down. We're back in a minute. We're talking about this wonderful new idea for a restaurant that's coming to fruition. It's called the Grand on State. It's interesting because, of course, it is going to be grand. It's next, very close to the Granada. It has now ensconced inside a grand piano, Steinway B, and it's got a grand pianist. Also ready, Brian Mann, ready to go. And he's got wonderful grand friends that he knows forever in the music world that are going to come along and just jump up there and play. I mean, it's very interesting because it's like a little slice of my background, the famous Chicago blues and jazz, and how my mom used to tell me in the old days, people would just come up on stage and, that's just the wonderful experience. Okay, Richard Sellers, go to quick break. Don't turn the dial, back in a minute.
And pause this. In 3, 2, 1, you are live.
Just a reintroducing Richard, we're talking with, as you can hear, two wonderful people that are bringing a concept to State Street, very close to the Granada, a restaurant, jazz club, a music-based experience. It's going to be the Grand on State. Right now, Jenna and Brian, a couple, are getting the restaurant ready. They're moving in their tables, they're doing their art, and they're discussing what needs to happen as far as what's in the future. They've already done some private events there. And by the way, if you're listening and you would like to get started with a private event, we are happy to have you reach out to Jenna and to Brian. And by the way, you can contact Jenna. Jenna, what's a good email? Of course, I've just
Yeah,
lost yours. Tell
that's
me
okay.
how. Let's say people want to do a birthday party, they want to do a party. Let's say, the holidays are coming up and they want to do a cocktail event. They want to get in touch with you. Tell us how to do it.
The best way to reach us is using our email address, which is thegrandonstate@gmail.com.
Okay. So the grandonstate@gmail.com. And if you're listening to this and you've got, we have an idea for some kind of wonderful party, and you know that if you've been in this town for as long as I've had, you've heard Brian perform, and I have heard him perform. As I said, I probably embarrassed myself at the El Encano by asking for dumb songs, but this is the way it goes. So now I want to talk a little bit about the menu, Jenna. Tell me, what's it going to be like?
So, really, the inspiration is, I think, as you mentioned, to use local ingredients and um, nothing too extravagant, something that people can relate to. When you read the menu and you recognize the ingredients, I think it's very comforting. So we're going to have a variety of starters, appetizers, tapas. So if you come in late or early and you just want something light, some simple salads with maybe heirloom tomatoes and balsamic vinaigrette, basil, olive oil. Um, and simple salads as well. Brian's favorite salad is arugula.
Yeah.
So we have to have an arugula salad. And these are just ideas. We're still crafting this, creating and crafting the menu, but to have some kind of a baby arugula salad with toasted almonds, Parmesan lemon dressing. And we will have a variety of main dishes as well. I love salmon. That's probably the thing I order most of all. People love steak, so we will have a couple options there. Chicken is always, a lemon herb roasted chicken with wild rice pilaf and sauteed greens, something like that would be lovely. And then we have friends who are vegans, and when we go out to dinner with them, they can't find anything on the menu except for pasta. So I want to make sure we have some hearty vegan dishes that have beans or chickpeas or nuts, seeds, something that is really protein based and filling for people who have different food preferences. So that's very important to me, that we have something for everyone. And then, of course, there's always the desserts. Desserts are very important to me. Something like a warm lemon cake, a fresh slice of amazing apple pie, and I love a dark chocolate mousse. So we will try to incorporate some of those real favorites and maybe partner with some of our local neighbors here who serve gelato or amazing treats, that we can also help them expand their customer base and present some of their specialties.
I offer two
Okay.
suggestions, Elizabeth, for a vegetarian entree. How about eggplant parmesan?
I love that.
And
Oh,
how
yeah.
about for dessert, creme brulee?
Love
Mm,
that too. I like a good risotto. I am also vegetarian. So
Uh,
yeah, I haven't eaten meat in 30 years. So I look for a good risotto at a restaurant that
oh,
actually,
nice.
yeah.
Nice to
Uh,
hear. Well, we're
yeah.
still in process of crafting this menu. So send your ideas forth and we will look at them and experiment in the kitchen.
I think
And
it's
you know,
a good idea.
one other thought that I had, by the way, Richard, Jenna was giving me just a little bit of a, FaceTime tour around the restaurant. And I want to talk a little bit about her marvelous wall in a minute, but and you'll that's a teaser. You're going to hear a fantastic story. But I was also wanting to mention, and Jenna almost called you back. It was like too late at night, but I have a great friend who Richard's actually come to know as well, who is 94 and he is a Pulitzer Prize photographer. He's
oh,
lived here in Santa Barbara for about 20 years. His name is Santi Visali. And Santi, yeah, Richard's saying, yeah, you know where I'm going with this, Richard.
I do,
So
I do.
Santi, for years, had a beat which was the famous Italian creatives of the world because he's Sicilian. And so he shot all the great musicians and all the great filmmakers and performers, Italian dancers, etc., and then branched out into some, musicians and performers, etc., that were not Italian, but he, long career, a long 50, 60 plus year career, and is a medal of the Italian Order or some kind of he's a knight of the Italian Order, something like this, but from his wonderful photography. And he mentioned to me that he would love to have some walls. He's got things that are ready to go and portraits of his performers in black and white. And I saw at the one side of the restaurant where there was some wall space. And of course, I'm an appraiser of art. I'm always thinking, well, what could we do with that wall? And so I could definitely put you in touch with Santi. I don't think he'd charge you anything just to have some wonderful photographs of his, of fantastic performers. I think that would be fit. Don't you, Richard? You like the idea?
Oh, I think that's fantastic. I tell you though, Santi, the hardest thing for Santi is getting in and out of that armor.
Yeah, well, he's not that kind of knight, but he's an what do they call it?
He's
Chevalier,
great. He's
something like
great.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Anyway, now I want to talk about the music. So it, jazz. Or
Yeah.
so what? Yeah. So go with that, Brian, and tell me what kind of things. I know that you can do improvisational work. I think I asked you once for a song at Ellen Canto. We used to go quite a bit, have drinks there. We used to bring our little dog in a baby carriage. And so I asked you for a song that you kind of knew but didn't know. And I sang a couple of bars in my crummy voice and you picked it up and ran with it. And so I know that is something that totally capable of doing.
Yeah.
But now what am I expecting music wise?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a variety, but one of the things for sure that I've been uh, enjoying lately, exploring and learning more about is actually music represented by the Nat King Cole Trio from the 40s and 50s.
Ah,
So this was acoustic piano, guitar, and upright bass. Sometimes he'd add other instruments, but basically that's the foundation. And then they all sing. Of course, Nat King Cole was the lead singer. I have a band that we've been playing together and having a lot of fun called the Boss Cats, and that's what we've been doing. So that era of music, and I don't think I'm going to delve much into more modern jazz personally, but we might represent that occasionally. Um, for me personally, the older eras of jazz are a little more relaxing and to play and to listen to. Then there's some incredible songwriters in town. Can I mention names? Yeah, Jackson Gillies has been a very good young friend of mine and very well known in town. And we've been playing around with some jazz tunes, piano and voice, and he sang one the other night here at our birthday party, and I don't know, I've not heard anybody better than him sing that song as Some Other Time.
What did he sing? What did he
He
sing?
sang Some Other Time, which was made famous by Bill Evans and oh gosh, I Left My Heart. What's his name? You might have to help
Oh,
me.
Perry Como.
No, no, that sounded like Perry Como probably. Well, I'll think of it in a minute. But and he fell in love with that song a few months ago. I fell in love with it about 30, 40 years ago. So we're about that far apart years wise, but came to this song together from our points of view, and it was incredible. He's also, you know, a songwriter, and I imagine him being here playing guitar and singing, and maybe adding one or two musicians, you know, bringing in his crowd, you know, people that know him. And and then we have some incredible singers. Lee Vance is new to town, and she and Randy Tico and I have been playing together as a trio, and she's just, her phrasing, her tone, her approach to jazz and vocals is, you know, it's just luscious. And then there's Colin Richardson, who's also been really a part of what we're thinking about doing here musically. And he sings and he plays sax, but his innate musicality, the way he communicates and supports the other musicians, and his smile when he turns around and looks at you. And I just love playing with him. And that's also a foundation for a trio or quartet with him. And then the Boss Cats, my buddies Craig and Kim. And so I've got a kind of pretty full stable. We won't always have drums, and they'll keep it. I've been playing a lot around town without drums and gotten used to that. And it's just a little different, a little mellower. And occasionally we will have drums when we want to spice things up a little bit. So that's what we know so far, but it's going to be a work in progress as we try things and see what people love. And
So two questions for you. So will there be room for folks to do requests is, I guess, one. And then secondly, you know, because the days of the week, everybody's got a different kind of mood each day of the week. You know, are you thinking, well, okay, we're going to have Thursday this night and we're going to have Friday's going to be that? Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You're right. That's what we're thinking, and we'll feeling it out, you know. We're going to start with some ideas and see how good those ideas are.
Well, I like what you said, you know, and I think it's a really important point to just bring up again is that there's certain art forms that bypass the logic center part of the brain and go right to the, you know, the intuitive, more feeling side, subconscious side more. Mm-hmm. And music is definitely one of those. And I like what you say that, you know, you're going to let the music kind of feel its way into what it wants to do. I think that's, I mean, and the other thing that we just have a few minutes, I want to talk about the wall. Dear listener, you can't, this is radio, you can't see beautiful Jenna, handsome Brian, you cannot see them. I can. They are sitting in front of a wall. The wall is planks, and Richard, there are different words on these planks. Yep, thank you, panning up, and you see that, Richard? And you'll see addresses, you'll see little different typefaces and styles. And to me, as an appraiser, I look at that and I say, oh, that's a period piece. I mean, that's 1930s, 1940s, maybe even early 20s by the type font style. And I'm looking at that, I'm saying, Jenna, where did you find that work of art? Well, Jenna, tell us quickly the story.
All right, quickly. We had to replace our kitchen floor. Our house is
At
over
home.
100 years old, and at home, our floor was Douglas fir, and a kitchen floor after 100 years is pretty damaged. So we pulled up the floor, and underneath was the subfloor, the planks. That was a subfloor, and it had been scrap lumber in the early 1900s. Someone went down State Street, because these are all State Street references, the advertisements that would have been painted on the sides of the walls of all the shops, and they had been torn down, and there was the scrap lumber. Someone, and our house is just a few blocks from here, so someone came to State Street, grabbed this the scraps or planks, as you call them, and created a subfloor. So it was very random. All the cuts run on the diagonal to create the subfloor, and everything was randomized. So the pieces don't all fit together, but it makes an amazing puzzle. And when you look at this wall, it just makes your brain try to figure out what was going on in the 1920s, possibly, or 1910s.
Yeah. I'm going to say it was probably 1920s, because after Pearl Chase got a hold of some of the ordinances in the new Santa Barbara after the quake, which is mid-20s, she gets a hold of some of the city fathers, I should say, and passes some sort of an ordinance where you can't have billboards anymore. And so, you wouldn't have had writing on the side of businesses after a certain era. And so Jenna and I were talking, Brian, that it would be so interesting. First of all, it's so prescient. It goes so well with the theme of the Grand on State, which is, the early days of jazz in the 20s and the 30s. It just, and it's all deco style font, by the way, which is, right there in the era of the jazz phenomena, is the deco style. Anyway, I was saying, oh my God, this is such an interesting thing. It just is like, when something's right, Brian, it all comes together in a beautiful way.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's like, okay, so you pulled up your floor and you find a 1920s planks that are turned into the side of a quote unquote late 20s kind of jazz club speakeasy kind of brainchild, and it works beautifully. And you got to see it, folks. You have to see it. Not only is it a part of Santa Barbara history, but it's a part of Santa Barbara history that was kind of glossed over. There were rough edges before it was, Spanish colonial, put it that way. And some of the rough edges were reflected in exactly what's on that wall. There was a lot of huckstering and self-promotion in Santa Barbara in those years before it became the beautiful, Pearl City that it came to be in the early 30s. So, I mean, it's just really cool to see that. And I just, my jaw dropped when I saw that. And you got to come and see. It's going to be part of the ambiance of the Grand on State, for sure. And Richard, are you saying we have to go to quick break, or did you have a question for them?
No, we need to go to a quick break.
Okay, we'll go to a very fast break, and then I want to tell people a little bit about when we can expect to start making real reservations. I know we're waiting now to have some of the final pieces come into shape at the restaurant. It's going to be the Grand on State. We're getting everything ready, and as I said, Jenna gave me a tour, and it's going to be fantastic. Don't turn that down. Back in a minute.
And when we get back, we need to wrap it up. And then, of course, you can send me, again, full-length pieces of music. I will put them in there. We do not have major prohibitions regarding music on the station. We do have, but for this program, it isn't going to be a problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So send those to Elizabeth, and then she'll forward it on to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Richard, one of our taglines is soft keys, savory notes. And I think that's kind of a
Go. In 3, 2, 1, you are live.
So I don't know how to ask you this exactly, Brian, but you are very friendly with Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins and all of their, and and you have been exposed, and I know, to all of their really heartfelt work with the teen musician and the young 20-something musician,
Yeah.
throughout the history of them living here in Santa Barbara. They've been super active. And there's been a lot of young people that have been so inspired to go on in the music career with them. And I know that you have also experienced a young person in your life that you've influenced greatly as a piano teacher. And so I'm thinking, are you planning on doing anything with young people in music in your restaurant?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's for one reason, it's really fun. It's energizing for me to work with young people. I become almost a different person. I get all this energy, but it's great. And somewhat altruistic. But yeah, I mean, actually, Kenny. Well, I started accompanying singers for Teen Star, and that was around the time that we did
Teen
sing
Sing
Ting Sing, and
after the mudslides.
then because of Jenna, I started meeting all these kids in Lights Up Theater. So
Right.
for the last maybe 10 years or more, 8 years, I don't know, been around young kids. I also have, you know, two sons and a stepdaughter and three granddaughters. And so I'm, what can you say? How can you not like kids? I mean,
Right. But as far as having kids like perform at your restaurant, is there going to
Yeah.
be like a teen night, something like
well,
this eventually?
these are good ideas. See, that's no. In general, yes, we have had those ideas, but we're learning from all the people that are excited about doing this. People tell us when we tell them what we're doing, they say, "Oh, we need that. We need that."
Yeah.
And so we're looking
Yeah.
forward to collecting more ideas about the music and the food, and not pretending like we know everything. We're so smart.
Yeah.
We love
Yeah.
to get input and ideas from the community and take all those
Yeah.
in.
I think what we want to do is have an expectation set that Thursday, Friday, Saturday evening, 7 to 11, we've got the pros out. And when you come in, you know what to expect. And then we can do other things on other nights or afternoons. I would love to support the Lights Up Theater Company in here. And I'm still a active part of that group, and to have teens in here with a platform for a cabaret and to be able to use the space for those kinds of things. And then we want to mentor, there's that what Kenny and Michael McDonald and Brian do is they reach out and work with teens. So there's that partnership, that philanthropic kind of partnership that we're also trying to embrace.
I think I want to just ask one thing of Brian that I try to ask all of my top level, top flight creatives that I get to speak to on this program. How do you recognize talent?
Well, well, I don't know, years of experience, but probably more just the feeling that I get, from listening. I think the feeling comes first and then you analyze, right? But it's first the feeling and then the words form around, why, which are approximations of what you're feeling. But generosity of heart, an ability to be in the moment, honesty in expression, listening. Listening is the most important thing in music, more important than playing, is listening. And so all of those things. But, I've been at it since I was 4 years old. So it's a combination. And yeah, talent when you hear it, when you see it.
I think that's marvelous that you said, first you feel it and then you can or cannot or do or choose not to put it through the analytical part.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because the analogy is that how Richard and I started to ask this question of all of our creatives. was because years ago, like 15, 16 years ago, I had one of our most brilliant teachers of oil painting on the air.
Mm.
And I loved his work. And he'd been teaching at City College. I think it was his 40 or 50 anniversary, something like this, a long, long time of painting and teaching painting in oil. And of course, I have a lot of background in art. And I said to him, "How do you recognize talent?" And now he said, right before I see the young folks in my class start to paint the brown potato in the sky. And what he meant by that was as you start to overwork a work of art, especially with oil, you get a mishmash of colors that turns brown. And if you can keep yourself away from overthinking and overworking and be pure in the moment, is what he was trying to say with that expression. And it stuck with me for years.
Yeah.
That is, you know, how that he recognizes talent right before he sees the young person paint the brown potato in the sky, right before.
Yeah.
If they can stop themselves, that's talent, you know. So
Okay. Yeah, I get
yeah.
that.
Anyway, congratulations. Keep me in the loop. We're going to cover this again, and definitely want to see what happens here. And by the way, you want us the Grand on State is the email address if you're looking for a venue
At gmail.com, the
at
grand on state
gmail.com,
at
and they're
gmail.com.
not officially open yet, but boy, they will be soon. And but in the meantime, they're doing some private events.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this has been fantastic. Thank you, Jenna Berg, Dr. Berg, and Brian Mann. It's interesting, the analysis and the feeling have come together as a couple. And now we're going to have a wonderful restaurant experience jazz club called the Grand on State. Can't
Thank you
wait.
so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. What a pleasure.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.